truck's guts. Hey Clooney Garage fans, welcome back to the channel. It's Fred here. Long awaited episode. We get heaps of questions around our build of our VF Commodore and where did we get it, what was the mods process, how long did it take, how much did it cost. We're not going to cover that one. How did we get our VF Commodore from a daily driven commuter to a 1,000 horsepower race car? Leave us a comment on this video on your Commodore build and how long it took you and what process you went through, and we can all learn from each other. But today, this video is all about Clooney. Let's get stuck into it. I'm a bit of a Quentin Tarantino fan, if you didn't already know, so I'm going to start using some episode placards here to sort of talk about our journey here. Episode 1, the new daily driver. The year was 2015. I was sick of driving around in an FJ Cruiser. Jeremy Clarkson once famously said, "What's the point of walking around with ski boots all year when you only go snowing in Christmas time?" That's how I felt driving this big lump of a thing. So I heard that Holden was under pressure in Australia. It may be the last chance to get a V8 and a Commodore, so I lashed out and got one. Went into the Gerald Slavin dealership, saw this beautiful looking Redline on the lot there, and I had to have it. Went for a bit of a drive with the sales rep, and he tried to impress me with the whole 270 kilowatts, and that was enough for me. I looked at some HSVs and some R8s, but knowing what I was going to do to the car, there was no point getting a HSV and turning that into a race car, so I just stuck with the Redline. I was pretty happy with the Redline. Brembo brakes, L77 motor, pretty robust gearbox and diff and all the rest of it, and the interior I thought was really nice as well. So went out, laid down my berries, got this little bad girl here. But of course, Fred being Fred, I couldn't just drive it off the lot. I had to go and get a bit of tweaking done. So they had a bit of a package going with Walkinshaw. You get these 310 and 375 packs. So I got myself a 310 pack. I've even got the Walkinshaw Authenticity Certificate, thank you. And that got me introduced to some pretty specky components. So that's where I got into the DeFilippo headers and the exhaust. They're now owned by Manta. And I only had the smaller 2.5-inch twin being the 6-litre and the smaller headers, but they were really nice. And they gave it a really crisp, mild steel sound, ceramic coated headers over the radiator intake and a bit of a tune, and that's when I first bumped into Gentech as well. So we went into Gentech and we had our baseline run of the Commodore, 217 kilowatts at the rollers, so it's a roller dyno back in those days, 2015, and then with the Walkinshaw kit, a massive 240 odd. So interesting. So that was pretty good as a daily driver, and I used that for a bunch of things. I even got a tow bar fitted. I picked up Christmas trees and dropping hay off to cattle and all the rest of it because I no longer had a four-wheel drive, so the poor old Redline had to do all those duties. But it was an amazing daily driven car.
Get in the guts, Barry. Shut the gate on this one, Maxie. It's the duck's guts.
Episode 2. Supercharged beginnings, and this is a slippery slope. I've mentioned in other videos, once you start modifying a car, the bug hits and it's downhill from there. So what happened was I went for a drive in a mate's LSA powered VF Redline, and that just changed my world. I thought this thing has got so much grunt. This thing put out some serious mumbo. It was 800 horsepower. He had wound it up, the boost up to 23 odd pounds. It was a monster. And I thought, so cool in a VF platform, what could this car be like on the track? So went down and saw Gentech, laid out some berries, and I got myself a 2300 Harrop blower, fitted to the L77 6-litre, some bigger injectors and a tune. And then we walked out and we were pumping out 400 odd kilowatts at the rollers. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought I was the king of the kids. And it was pretty cool because we still had the exhaust that we had on it from the 310 pack. And I went around and I put 100,000 kilometers on that car as my daily driven car for the next 4 years. And I paid the car off totally, so then it was mine. And yeah, then kept using it as a daily, but then you start getting the itch. Episode 3. There is no substitute for cubic inches. Gentech were advertising one of those W427 warranty engines that they had squirreled away. And I went in and saw Marcus. I said, I have to have that because I didn't want someone else to get their grubby little hands on it. And that was going to be the centerpiece for our next build. Because the 400 kilowatts was cool, but I was used to it. Where we wanted to take the car and become a full-blown race car, I knew I had to have more cubes and more power. And I started reading about Super Chevy magazine in the US, and they talked about these Frankenstein conversions of LS7 and supercharging. Some of them were turbocharging them as well, but I didn't really want to head down that route for a race car. So then Harrop brought out the 2650 blower, and I think from my understanding that is the biggest capacity blower that they still make, and that was going to be perfect as an air pump for the 7 litre. But I didn't sit there and go, I'm just going to slap a blower onto this 7 litre and be content with that. No, this was the time to put a camshaft into the 7 litre and do a bunch of other things too. So I went and saw Marcus, we sat down and we wrote a list, and this is what we come up with. The Harrop 2650 blower, a Nick Williams 102mm throttle body, 950cc Deutschwerks injectors, a sump baffle kit, an ASR windage tray, cold 160-degree thermostat, LS billet oil pickup girdle, LS7 crank spacer, ARP head stud kit, ARP LS7 harmonic balancer, larger catch can, and then the cam package. We went and saw Brian Tooley in the US. He recommended we get this LS7 Stage 4 blower cam, custom grind for supercharged applications. We got the Brian Tooley dual valve spring kit, roller master timing set, and push rods. 2 pages here, it goes on. Went the 8-rib conversion kit, harmonic balancer overdriven, the trunnion kit, the diff overhaul. We went up to a wave track, so we wanted to really strengthen that diff. We went up to a HSV 3.7 gear set. We stepped up the exhaust up to a big Manta 3-inch custom, and we cut out the centre muffler, the centre resonator. No longer needed meows, so they got deleted. Then we looked at all the whole rear diff cradle, and then a bunch of other stuff. And then she was ready to rumble. Check this out on the dyno. A little bit hard to see the dyno result there, but she pumped out 570 kilowatts or 766 horsepower. And that was again on the roller, so not the hub dyno. Well into the 600s onto the hub dyno. That was cool. It now has to become a dedicated race car. I can't go racing around with a blown 7 litre and use that as my grocery getter. I also picked up a Hilux at that time too, so that was my daily go-getter. So the Clooney become truly the race car. So what do you do with a race car? You kit it out like a race car. So we went AGI roll cage, we stripped the interior, custom door cards, full fire suppression, race seat, harness, all the safety gear, nets both left and right for the driver, only one driver's seat, full aluminium custom interior, floor plates, rear, custom OMP steering wheel, and then we started really setting this car up like a V8 supercar. 1,600 kilos once we pulled all this weight out of it. And these things are about 1,800, 1,850 stock. So, we put over 200 kilos out of this car. It's a lightweight. But we didn't stop there. It's not only the interior that got the Clooney Garage treatment, we started jumping into all the suspension componentry. So we went and looked at who makes the best suspension coilovers for a VF. It was MCA. We got a set of those, got them custom fit, 4 degrees camber in the front, 2 degrees camber in the rear. We looked at all other componentry as well. We looked at our brakes, left the calipers as they were, but we fitted Ferodo, DS Uno, high temperature racing brake pads, topped up our brake fluid with some racing brake fluid. Then we looked at air ducting, and then we were seriously thinking far out. We've got all the componentry here to go really fast, and we're going to be safe at the same time. Finally, a car is made by a set of wheels. We reached out to Koya. They hooked us up with these fantastic V8 supercar style wheels. We like them so much we even put them on the VE. They are awesome and they are super lightweight as well. And have nice wheels without good tyres. Reached out to Gordon Levin Motorsports. We got the latest and greatest Yokohama ADO 50s in the medium compound, and we've now been through about 3 sets of those and we have a look back. Playing with the big boys. We're now in the 1,000 horsepower club. We had a bit of a moment on the dyno when we started adding more fuel and a different fuel system onto our LS7 supercharged setup, and she went bang. She blew a thing out the back and a bit out the side, and no, it wasn't that dramatic. We actually took the top of a piston, and that rattled around and did some damage to the valves as well, and we cracked a bore as well. So what do you do when you're faced with a situation like this? Well, you can either throw the block away, or ours was salvageable. I wanted to keep the alloy block. I didn't want to go to a cast iron block and have a big heavy lump in the front of the car. So we kept the LS7 block, but we basically upgraded everything else. Big Darton sleeves. We went up to Carrillo pistons, dropped our compression ratio so we could throw more boost in it, forged rotating assembly, Dragon Slayer, Kelly's crank, Oliver rods, upgraded all the valves. LS7s have got this renowned valve issue, fixed all them, and then we started to seriously look like we're going to have a serious, reliable and boosted combo. With the new fuel system, meant we could run E85. Have a listen to this thing sing on the dyno. It burst eardrums all around Michelin and Canberra. Did the 1000 on E85?
We did, 1007.8.
All right, into the high 900s on a 98 tune, well into the thousands on a E85 tune at the hubs. So God knows what it is at the engine, and not that you measure horsepower at an engine, but there are always significant drivetrain losses there. But she's pumping that grunt out of the hubs, so she's a handful. So what do you do when the car's a handful? You go and shake it down. Let's go. Our shakedowns. So at the time, One Raceway in Wakefield was still closed, so the only close track that we had near to us was Pheasantwood. And of course, what happens when you go to shake a car down? It rains. So we took a 1000 horsepower car out to Pheasantwood purely just to putt around and just to make sure that nothing fell off, everything was reliable, and it would tickety-boo. Have a look at some of this footage. Precarious out there at Pheasantwood. That's called the bowling alley for good reason. There's concrete walls left and right, and not really amenable to a horsepower car like Clooney, but we had fun nonetheless. It didn't disappoint. We did a sub 60-second lap, and that was me just pedaling around barely at 60% throttle. For the rest of the corners, it was pretty tame and pretty sedate, and I was still running in some green tyres and stuff too, so wasn't really there for a time, but it was good nonetheless. Our big shakedown happened at Sydney Motorsport Park. You may have seen the video. So we finally took Clooney out there somewhere to stretch its legs. My second time at the track, my third only session, so I'm still learning all the corners. And of course, we went on a full-on race day racing up against Porsche GT3 Cup cars, Garth Tander, a bunch of other V8 supercar drivers out there. So we tried to stay out of everyone's way whilst we just try and shook this car down. Weren't going for a lap time, still learning the track, but still did a 148. And that was putting around a couple of corners and just keeping out of people's way. So we were there to shake the car down. A bunch of other cars doing the same thing, running engines in and all the rest of it. But we can't wait to go to Run Raceway and really let this thing stretch its legs. It's fully reliable now, it's shaken down, tyres are all scrubbed in. I'm getting more confident as a driver in the car, and now we can just send it. You know, what are we going to do with Clooney next? It's had this amazing journey so far, but where are we going with Clooney? Well, we're at the start of our development journey, really, and as you can see, it's pretty stock looking. No livery, no wild sort of emblems and all the rest of it, and no aero. So this poor thing competing against GT3s at Turn 1 at Sydney Motorsport Park, I'm just trying to putt down there and stay on the road, and they've got a ton of downforce and big wings and big 345 tyres and all that. I'm still running street diameter tyres, and you know, so it ain't set up to go fast around corners, but it still honks around. So One Raceway will be a really good place, not a super fast circuit, but it'll be really suited to this car. So we're hoping to get really into the low 1 minutes when we take Clooney out to one raceway. 27th of February we've got it booked in. Then we'll go back to Sydney Motorsport Park and we'll go with a more track day when there's not so many race cars around and there's less pressure, and then we'll really stretch at legs and hopefully get into the high 130s, low 140s. That's what we're sort of thinking if the stars align. And then we'll start the development. We're going to look for a V8 supercar front bar, big front diffuser, splitter, get some more weight on the front of the car and get some aero. We're going to look at a big rear wing, get some downforce, and we're going to look at all underneath the car and cleaning up all the dirty air, because the poor thing is just like it's a four-door passenger car. It's not designed like a V8 supercar with any aero or anything like that. Mind you, it's still doing 260 odd down the main straight. And she's a beast to hold on to. As I mentioned at the start of the video, tell me your journey with your Commodore, what mods you've done and all the rest of it. Show me some dyno sheets, show me some receipts and stuff if you want. You don't need to tell me how much it costs, but love to hear your journey of all the bits and what we've done as well. This channel and these videos are all about helping you, giving you some ideas, giving you some tips, and making your Commodore and your race car go better and you better as a driver. Catch you later.